just having the confidence to go solo and do it. It was something that I had to think about quite a lot. But in the end, I knew that it was something that I wanted to do and something that was going to be right for me and my life and my business. So I think having confidence in your own business and in yourself that you can do what you want to do.
I'm Becca Pountney, wedding business marketing expert, strategist, speaker, and author. Over the last decade, I've combined my love of marketing with my knowledge of the wedding industry to help thousands of wedding pros and venues just like you learn new skills, strategize, get re-energized, and grow their businesses. Because after all, that's how you stay top of your game. Whether you're brand new into this industry or been here forever, I want to help. So grab a cup of tea or a cocktail, sit back and enjoy a brand new episode of my award-winning podcast, Wedding Pros Who Are Ready to Grow. Let's get going with today's episode. Today, I'm chatting with Amber, founder of Kaluna & Time. Her mission is to help you create a website that finally feels aligned, a website that you're actually proud to share and confident sending inquiries to, and even better, you're excited to shout about it. Having spent 14 years working in the wedding industry and having met many pros who were constantly apologizing for their websites, she decided to create Kaluna & Time to help them. You may have seen Amber as one of the sponsors and exhibitors at Wed Pros Live this year, and I cannot wait to chat with her on the podcast today. Amber, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Becca. Thank you so much for having me. That was such a good intro.
It's an absolute pleasure. It's lovely to have you. It was lovely to have you at Wed Pros Live. I'm sorry that we didn't personally have more conversation. I feel like I was so busy that day, I barely spoke to anyone. But did you have a good day? Did you enjoy yourself?
Yeah, I did. It was absolutely amazing. And to be able to even sit in on the speakers as well, I didn't even realise before, hadn't really thought about it, but to be able to sit in and listen to all of the talks was like an extra bonus. And then kind of running back to my stand to make sure that I can talk to everybody. But yeah, you did such an incredible job. You should be so proud of the event that you put on. And yeah, I had an amazing day.
It was an amazing day. And I feel like we were all running backwards and forwards, but I wouldn't have changed it for the world. It was a whole lot of fun. And the buzz in that exhibitor area, in the main room, I feel like the energy was high all day. So my only question to myself now is, how am I going to equal or top that for 2027? But that's a problem for Becca on another day. Now, if people don't know you, let's get to know you a little bit better, because perhaps people did meet you that day. Maybe they've never even heard of you before. I said in the intro, you've been in the wedding industry a long time. So take us back pre-Kaluna & Time. What did you do? How did you get into the wedding industry? Give us a bit more information.
Yeah, no problem. So I worked in a bakery / cake shop for around 14 years. So I was running one of the shops. So I would do wedding cake consultations. I would go to wedding fairs. I would deliver wedding cakes and set them up at the venues. So I've been in the industry and I know what it's like to have sort of your quieter time and then your summertime where it was really, really busy. And I've been in the cake consultations where, they've said, oh, we found you on this website and we found you here. And then they've booked a consultation and then actually doing the consultation and then hopefully booking them afterwards. So I know what it's like to be in the industry and know what couples are actually looking for to book.
And how did you get that job in the first place? Are you a cake maker yourself? How did you end up working in this cake shop?
So no, I'm not actually a baker, but it was the family business. And at the end of last year, I decided to leave. So I was doing Kaluna & Time as a bit of a side hustle since 2022. And it kind of came to a point where I'd had my kids and I just felt like this was the right journey for me to go on. So in November, I left that job and now I'm doing Kaluna & Time full time.
Amazing. Let's go back a little bit then. So you were working in the cake shop and then you said that you started building Kaluna & Time on the side. So what was the catalyst? What made you start thinking, I know, I could help wedding businesses with their websites?
So when my daughter was 1, I was designing her birthday invitation on Canva and I was looking online for some ideas and I came across a template on Etsy and realised that a lot of people were selling digital downloads on Etsy. So I uploaded a few designs onto there. And then one day I saw a wedding business theme template. I think it might have been maybe a florist brochure. And then something just clicked in my head and I thought, hold on a minute. I've worked in the wedding industry. It's good to kind of niche down. So I used that and set up the shop to be fully wedding business themed. And it was right around the time where wedding content creators became a thing. So a lot of people didn't even know they existed, and I'd already created templates for them on Etsy. So it was things like pricing brochures, social media templates, that kind of thing. And so they kind of went really popular because I was one of the first ones to get them onto Etsy for wedding content creators. And now it kind of just developed from there. Then I saw a Showit website and looked into learning how to use Showit. Learned all of that, made some templates on Showit, and then offered template customization of them. And then that's where I kind of am now, offering Showit templates, template customization, VIP days, and custom web design as well.
I love that. So it's been a full journey. So when you first started, then you were just on Etsy. You didn't have your own website. You were just doing everything through Etsy. And then over time, you've evolved it.
Yes. So I had a bee themed online gift shop, a bit random from what I'm doing now, but I loved bees. And I originally started off with a blog. So I had a natural and organic beauty blog. Then that turned into the bee website. And then when I had my daughter, I was like, I don't really want to be packing orders at 9 o'clock at night in the spare bedroom upstairs when she's only gone to bed at 8 o'clock. So I kind of wound that down and started using some of the designs I had from the gift shop on the templates on Etsy. But that was quite niche because it was bee themed digital download. So it was kind of an extra layer of niche. And that's then when I saw the business template and I thought, okay, hold on, I know the wedding industry inside out. I've worked in it, I've lived it. And that's how I ended up building Kaluna in Time.
I love it. And I love it because so often our businesses are this slow evolution. They're not just we come up with this idea overnight and it's born. It kind of comes from one idea into another idea that turns into another idea that gets us to where we're supposed to be. So here, right now, you're now full-time in the business. So just talk about that leap, because I think that for anyone in any industry is a difficult time. When you make a decision to step out of a paid salaried job and just go, you know what, I'm just going to go on my own. That is a big decision. It can feel quite scary for people. And often people do it a lot later than they wish they had. Again, was there a catalyst for that decision? What did you put in place? Were you terrified or were you just confident it was going to be okay?
Yeah, a little bit terrified, a little bit scared, but confident that I knew that I want this to work. So I don't think I necessarily put that much in place, but I was already running it as a side hustle. So I'd be working in the evenings, kind of getting as much done as I could to prepare for, like you said, not having the salary and kind of going on it all by myself. So I've tried to network with as many people as I can. Sponsoring WedPros Live was a big decision for me, but one that I'm so glad that I did. And just sort of getting my name out there a bit more has definitely helped with going solo in the business.
Yeah, and it is scary and it does take time, and you're absolutely right. Relationships are everything. Now, let's talk about websites then, because that's what you're doing now. That's what you're excited about. That's where you're trying to make a difference for people. And I see a lot of wedding business websites from both venues, sole traders, when I do marketing reviews for people, when I go into their businesses. And let's just say there's a big spectrum of how good someone's website is. I've seen some dreadful websites, I've seen some amazing websites, and I've seen everything in between. So from your perspective, what do you think are some of the biggest mistakes that you have seen people making when it comes to their wedding business websites?
Yeah, I agree. I've seen a whole spectrum as well. I would say one of the main things that I think a lot of wedding business owners do is they focus too much on themselves rather than who they're trying to attract. So I see a lot of websites where they've got a big image at the top and then it goes straight into, hi, I'm Sarah, or hi, I'm Becky, and then a whole paragraph about them, maybe about degrees that they've got or how long they've worked in the industry, or, about their favorite things in life or their dog. And they don't realize that they need to speak to the people they're trying to attract first so that they can work out if they're in the right place, because that stuff doesn't really matter if you can't do what they're looking for. So I think definitely you need to speak to them about what you do, but kind of reverse engineer it where, you're saying what you do, but how it can help them and how you're the right one for them on their wedding day, without going full on talking all about yourself first. So that can definitely come a bit later on, but not the first thing that kind of people see straight away when they land at the top of your website.
I see that a lot as well. And it always makes me laugh. It does seem to be a thing in our industry and with small businesses. And I don't know why it is, because when we look at big business websites, so for example, let's just use a crazy example. We go to Amazon to buy something. Like, it would be ridiculous if we land on Amazon and the first thing was like, "Hi, I'm Jeff Bezos, and would you like to buy one of my products?" But for some reason, in a small business, I guess because it's so close to home and it feels like it's just us, we feel this need to shout about it. And I also think people get a bit confused because we also talk about the importance of personal brand and bringing yourself to the front of the business. And yet both things can be true at the same time. So as a wedding business owner, you can bring yourself to the front of the business in content, on a great About Me page with photos scattered through the website. But it is not the most important thing when someone's deciding which florist to book. Yes, they want to know a bit about you, but not first. So I definitely see that mistake. Okay, any other mistakes? I've got one for you. What about people who have 20 bazillion things on their navigation bar? That one drives me crazy. Too many choices.
Yeah, definitely simplicity, I think, is better. So you definitely obviously need your copy on there and your images, but we don't want to make it too confusing that somebody lands on it and they're like, "Oh, where do I go next? What do I do? What do you want me to do next? Like, what am I looking for?" They might have 50,000 pages and all of these links, but then the customer's sitting there thinking, "Oh, okay, well, shall I go on this website first, or shall I go on this page first, or shall I do this next? Like, what do you want me to do?" So definitely having a simple menu, navigation bar, and even the flow of the website as well. You don't need all of the things on your website. You just need to kind of condense down the most important things and put them in the right order.
Yeah, so true. Okay, so I said in the intro and at the beginning about, and I experienced this a lot too, that you met people, wedding pros, and they're almost ashamed of the current website they have, or they're embarrassed about it. What do you think it is from your experience that makes people feel that way? What is it about their website that they're embarrassed about?
I think it could be a few things. I think a lot of people maybe haven't updated it in a while. So they're kind of thinking, "Oh, these pictures don't really reflect what I do now." I don't know whether it could maybe also be a British thing that people don't want to like shout about themselves and tell everybody, "This is me and this is what I do and this is how I can help you." But yeah, I do see that a lot where people go, "Oh no, I'm going to cringe if you look at my website, or I'm going to cringe if a customer finds it." And I think, oh no, because it should be one of your most valuable assets in your business. And yeah, we need to definitely change it so that you're not embarrassed by your website.
100%. And I want to just pause for a moment for people listening, because I say this on stage a lot. If you're at the point where you're too embarrassed for someone to see your website, that is an internal signal that it's probably time for you to update your brand or update your website, because we should be proud of what we have. Now, I do also need to speak to the perfectionists, because there are some people that do have a really good website who will be embarrassed to share it because they're too perfectionist. I'm not talking to you. You need to just loosen up a bit. But for the people who genuinely know, if I was to look at their website, I would say, "Oh, it's out of date. All the images don't reflect what you do." That is a sign to you that maybe it's time to change. And it's okay. I see it a lot, and I'm sure you do, Amber, as well, where people start their businesses and they build their own website, because at the beginning, we don't have much time. We don't have much, well, we have time. We haven't got much money. And so we can't invest in this posh website for someone to design. And so we build our own. But what happens quite often is 3-4 years into the business, that business has now grown and they've outgrown that basic website. And that's the time to go, now's the time to invest. And that doesn't mean you didn't do a good job with your first website. It just means your first website matched you when you started a very small business. But 3-4 years in, your business is actually a lot bigger, a lot more professional, reaching a whole different audience. Now's the time to go, that website worked for that part of my journey. Now I need a new design, new look, new, fresh, modern feel for the next part of my journey. Do you agree?
Yeah, I'd 100% agree. And I actually spoke to a couple of people at Wed Pros Live who literally said exactly the same thing. And they were like, "This was fine. Like, I built it myself when I first started. But now I do this and I want to focus on this instead. And I'd rather have this on there and I want these things on here." And they just need to up level it where they, it reflects the business and the services that they're offering now rather than when they first started.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, what do you think are the most important aspects of a website? Because a website does many things. And I know that you're someone who says it shouldn't just be a portfolio, it should do a job. So what should your website be doing? What are the important things that everyone listening needs to make sure is clear and they have on that site?
Okay, so the first thing I would say when you land on a website, the first thing that you want is a clear header. And that could either be a photo or it could be some copy where we're clearly explaining what you do, who you do it for, and then a location. So that could be you are a wedding planner for stressed out couples who want a stress-free wedding day, and you do it in London. So immediately when that couple lands on your website, they're going to go, oh yeah, okay, so we're a couple in London and we're really stressed out about our wedding and we want a wedding planner to come in and make our wedding day stress-free. That is immediately speaking to them and what they're looking for. So it kind of gives them that feeling of, oh yeah, this is for us. This is the person for us. Rather than if you had something maybe like, hi, I'm Sarah and I'm a wedding planner in London. It doesn't really speak to anybody. It could be anybody's website. It's a bit generic. So definitely having that first and foremost on the top of your website to speak to those couples as soon as they land on it. Also having imagery that reflects the couples that you want to attract. So if you want to say maybe do a few more, say, untraditional weddings, a bit more quirky, but then all of your photos are kind of white weddings that most people have, people that are landing on it are going to be a little bit confused about, if your messaging was saying you do untraditional weddings, but then the photos are kind of more generic, then they're going to be thinking they're a bit confused because they're not sure which one you're going for. So definitely having images on there that reflect what you're saying, but also who you want to work with. And then we also want to guide couples through the website. So it's like a journey. So wherever they land, no matter what page they land on, whether it's the home page, the about page, you need to make sure that you've got call to actions on there. So that could be download my brochure or book your trial if you were a bridal hair or makeup artist, or book a discovery call with me. So we're telling them what that next step is that we want them to do. So we don't need too many on one page because, again, it's going to confuse them. But at the bottom, I usually say at the bottom of every single page, we need to tell them exactly what we want to do next, because then they're going to be more likely to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so to recap then, we want to make sure we got a really strong headline at the top of our website, and this definitely gets missed a lot. And I think that is even more important in this TikTok, Instagram age, because people come across wedding pros from all over the world and then click through to your website, and they need to know immediately whether or not you're based near them. Because sometimes I'll go to a website and I'm thinking, right, I'm looking for someone, I don't know, in London. And I go through all these websites, then I realize they're in New York or, New Jersey. That's no good to me. So absolutely agree with you on that one. Secondly is images, but not just good images that reflect the kind of people that you want to work with or the kind of products you want to be selling. And then thirdly, making sure we have that clear customer journey, call to action, giving people options and ways to move around your site to keep them engaged, keep them moving through the process. All really helpful tips. So if I am time poor, because a lot of people listening to this will go, I'm so busy, I don't have time right now to look at my website, and they have 1 hour and they can only fix one thing on their website, what's the one thing that you would encourage them to go and look at and try and improve?
Oh, that's a tricky one. I would probably say the call to actions is really important, because I think you can have a lot of people have all of the information on there, but then you just get to the bottom of the page and then it's just nothing, or it's, maybe their email, but it doesn't actually tell them what they should do next. And I always find, if you watch like a YouTube video and they get a little bit into it and then they go, don't forget to like and subscribe. It's kind of doing that. It's telling the couples to go and book a trial or go and book a discovery call or visit the portfolio. It's really simple, but you need to have at least one key call to action on every single page. And then it should guide them through to wherever you want them to go. So it might be the contact page, but just make sure that you've got them at least one on every single page. And I did read a stat the other day, I can't remember where I read it, but it said personalized call to actions perform 202% better. So if it was book your discovery call or book your trial rather than book a trial, then those perform better. So definitely using sort of your and my in there, and that should perform better.
That's a really good tip. That's something very easy that people could go and change on their discovery call buttons right now. Talk to the person, just book your call. And you're right, we have to talk to people in basic language and tell them what to do next. That brings me to another mistake, actually. I don't know if you see this. I'm sure you absolutely have. But I see people naming their pages on their navigation bar really flowery things that don't make any sense and don't actually tell you what that page does. Have you seen that?
Yeah, I have. And it's sort of like it is kind of like speaking to them like they're a child almost, but obviously not being condescending, but just so that they know, if there's any doubt of what it is, they're just going to not click on it because they're not going to think that it's, what they want to do. So yeah, definitely being clear. If it was packages, call them packages, don't call them something else, or services. Just be really clear and simple with the navigation, and the buttons is definitely the way to go.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's lots of room on your website to be creative with copy, but the titles and the navigation bar is not the place to do it. I think, again, our industry, we're full of creative people. And so we want to bring new ideas. We don't like the simple, but actually there are some instances where just being clear and straightforward is going to win every time. Now, let's talk about images, because I think images is a big sticking point for a lot of people, particularly when they're starting out, but as they go through their journey. Because if I come to you and I'm a new business, I'm like, right, I want a new website, and you say, great, send me images for all your pages. I then go, oh, I don't really have very many images, or I've only got images from my phone. And we know that images are important. So, what do you say to someone in that situation when they're struggling for images?
So I would usually say, just send me them all and I'll see what I can do, because I think a lot of people think that they don't look good, but I can look at it from an outsider view and be like, okay, yeah, this one looks good with this one, or this one would be good, as a really big one, whereas this one might be better for kind of like a smaller detail image. But if you're really struggling, and say it's something that you want to get into doing something and you really haven't got any images, like I spoke to somebody yesterday, she wants to do destination weddings. Well, obviously she can't just go fly to Italy and, fake a Italian wedding, but she needs photos that are going to reflect that. So doing some styled shoots is a really great way to get a bunch of images that you can then use on your website. Obviously weaved in with real weddings as well, because we don't want everything to just be a stage shoot. But yeah, definitely key photos on there that actually showcase the experience as well, rather than just, maybe like a random detail image of some champagne glasses or something. If you're, say, a wedding venue, you want to showcase where the ceremony is, where the reception is, and that kind of thing, rather than just a really close-up picture of a couple that could be in any venue. So yeah, images are really, really important. But yeah, if you haven't got many, I would say try and do a styled shoot, or even ask ask photographers maybe that have worked at the weddings that you've worked at, see if you can get some from those and then credit them. I'm sure there's a lot of ways that you can get more images for your website.
And it's such a minefield, isn't it? Because we can't use images that reflect work that isn't ours. So we need to be careful of that. We also need to be careful of just using stock images, because I don't know about you, it's a bit like Canva. We see the same photos. I do it in my presentations. I use Canva images in presentations, and then I see someone else's presentation and think, oh, that's the same image I use, because there's only so many, which is fine in a presentation. But when you're selling your website, it's not ideal and people will notice it. I think the new thing that's going to be coming in, and I'm sure you're going to start seeing this more and more as well, Amber, is people creating images with AI, which I'm sure we could have a whole debate on whether we want to do that or not. But people are doing it in unethical ways. So I've seen examples recently of people taking someone else's images and then getting AI to change them for their own images. So I would just say to people listening, if you're struggling in this area, don't try and find a shortcut. All of those things I've just said to you are shortcuts. And yes, they are possible. Some of them are ethical, some of them are not. But I would also encourage you to, when you get together a budget for your website design, try and add something into that budget for photography, whether that is a styled shoot, whether that's a planned shoot that you do and you pay towards to get your great photos, whether that's paying for a brand photographer to come and take your photos, because images are a huge part of what sells your brand and what makes a average website look like a good website.
Yeah, definitely. And I was just going to say about the brand shoot as well. You could set up maybe a pin board on the wall, and, say if you're a planner, you could pin up some photos of, some photos that you've worked on, or, some stationery, some ribbons, all that kind of thing that would look like how you would work on a wedding, a mood board. And you can use those photos throughout the website as well. So it doesn't just have to be weddings. You can also weave those in as well, because it shows you working without being like, here I am doing this. So yeah, it's a really great way to kind of get those photos through the brand shoot as well.
To your point about the destination wedding, I actually had someone who I worked with quite a few years ago now who wanted to go into destination weddings. And they were of the mindset, I want to do this and I want to do it in the best way possible. And they were going on holiday, I think it was to Mexico, and they already had a holiday booked to Mexico. So they just arranged a little styled shoot with people in Mexico to get the photos. And they created so much content. At the time, it was blog content. It gave them photos to go on their website. And what happened was people started booking her for weddings in Mexico because they could see it, and they could see it was genuinely in Mexico. And even better, she'd made all of these connections with people in Mexico. So she didn't spend money on it because she was already going there on holiday. So I think sometimes we look for the things that are in our way instead of looking at the way that we can make things we're already doing work for us. So there we go. There's a little tip here if they're listening. So the person that's not got the destination wedding photos, find a way to get them. There will be, where there's a will, there is always a way. What about updating images? Because I think it's a bit like, when you look back at your mum or dad's wedding photos, and the photo is what ages it, right? And the style of the photo and the dress in the photo. And weddings do change from season to season, and images can look outdated quite fast. How often do you think we should be updating images on our website? Because sometimes I will review someone's website and say, this looks like it was from the 90s. Please take this photo off. That is not cool anymore.
I love that. So I would say have individual galleries on your website where you can usually copy the page. So you can just duplicate it, change it for the wedding that you've worked. So that is a really great way to get in the venue that you worked at, a lot of keywords around that venue as well in the location, and show updated portfolios basically without having to go through every single page on your website and be like, oh, shall I swap this one or shall I swap this one? So if you can have an individual gallery page for, a recent couple that you did a wedding for, that's a really great way to have updated photos on your website. But also I would just say maybe at the end of every wedding season, I would say, get the photos from the photographer, or if you're a photographer yourself, you're going to have loads. So get those photos and just kind of go through your website and picture yourself in the mindset of, oh, I'm an engaged couple who is looking for me. What would I want to see? And then change the photos based on that. So if you've got some really, really nice ones from the last wedding season, pop them on there and put them in a really key place as well. And if you look at it and think, oh, I don't really want to do that anymore, or I don't want this service or this product, then take it off.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you're right. Once a year to do a full kind of, it doesn't have to take long. Just look through and go, yeah, that doesn't work anymore. Because often once we've launched a website, we don't actually go back to our website that often and look at it because we're busy doing other things. And, when I do audits for people for their marketing, and part of that, I look at their website, quite often I'll point stuff out to them and they'll go, oh, I just didn't even realize that was still there. Oh, I forgot that page existed, because it's been so long since they've gone through it, but I've gone through it with a fresh eye. But we have to remember, couples are going through it with a fresh eye every single time they come. They don't know your history. They don't know what you did 10 years ago. So yeah, once a year at a minimum, go through that website and just check for broken links and update your images as well. Now, we've talked a lot about the aesthetics. We talked about the content, but we can have a beautiful website. We can have great content, and yet it's still not working for us. It's still not bringing us any inquiries. From your experience, what do you think's like the number one thing or the reason why we may get visitors to our website, but then they don't do anything?
Okay, that's quite a big one, but we'll try and break it down a little bit. So I think if you're getting visitors, but they're not clicking through to inquire, that could be because you're not telling them to. So going back to the call to actions, you're not actually guiding them through. It could be that you've got a really confusing contact form. So I see this a lot where there's about 15 questions and, it's just unnecessary at that moment in time. So we need to make it really, really easy for them to just go on there and say, couple name, 1 and 2, and then where are you getting married? What date is it? I don't think it needs necessarily much more than that. Obviously, a few, maybe like a makeup artist might need to know if there's, bridesmaids or, mother of the groom or mother of the bride. So I think they need to, but you just need to make it as condensed down as possible so that they're not like, oh, I don't even know if this person is right for me or whether they're going to have my date available, but I've got to answer 15 questions before I can find out. So that's definitely one. And then also it comes down to the messaging and the images again, because I think a lot of the time people inquire, also pricing. So just to note that in there. So if somebody inquires and you don't have your pricing on your website, and then you tell them the pricing and then they just ghost you, that's where we could potentially have had the pricing on the website, explain the value with that, and then they know, okay, so with this person, I'm getting this, and this for this price. But with this person, they've been a bit vague and I don't really know what I'm going to get with it. And it's going to be this price. So I think it's really good to have your pricing on your website, but also have the value that goes with that and the experience of the day. I know that at WedPros Live, everybody, like literally all of the speakers were talking about the experience. And I've tried to reiterate that with my clients as well and just say, you know, it's all fine to put, you know, the features, maybe the venue might be air conditioned, but how does, you know, that doesn't really make much difference for a couple, whether, you know, it's air conditioned, but the feeling of, you know, walking from the church all the way through to the reception, you know, how does that feel and look for them on their wedding day? And we need to put that onto the website.
So true. And I think it's interesting when we start talking about data, right? We're talking about, okay, how many people come to a website, how many people inquire on the website, but also sometimes there's a false economy in there because there are people that don't have all that information on there. And so they think they're getting a lot of inquiries, but then they're getting ghosted a lot. So we also have to look at that next stage, because the reason they may be getting lots of inquiries is because those people are inquiring to get the price. They just want the price, and that's it. And so actually, although you are getting the inquiries, they're not actually qualified inquiries and they're not actually good inquiries. So actually, you're better to have visitors coming and some get screened out, and the ones that are actually interested then fill in the form because they've had all the information there. So again, if you're listening to this and thinking, well, I do great, my website gets loads of inquiries, they just don't convert. Well, is it because you're just not telling them the information they need to know up front, and they're trying to get that from you and then deciding to screen you out there and then? Okay, here's another question for you, because we talked earlier about how, you know, there's people that will build their own website, there's people that will pay someone to build their website. From your professional opinion, as someone who builds other people's websites and helps them with it, what do you think something that when you land on a website instantly makes it look more professional, or like a professional's done it rather than just an individual?
Okay, I love that question. I would say the structure of the website is a bit of a giveaway, because I think a lot of people, especially if they've built it themselves from where they started, they'll, you know, maybe start with a header and then a section and then a review section. But it's kind of like they've just sort of like plonked it together. Whereas when a professional's done it, there is a clear structure to it where you're sort of starting with about the couple. So what we want them to know, what we said earlier. Then you can go into a bit about you after some photos. Then the social proof, so the testimonials, are really key. But also something I see a lot is wedding professionals having a standalone page for testimonials rather than having them weaved throughout the website. And I don't know how many people would click on that to go to a separate page. Whereas if they're reading the homepage and they can see, okay, yeah, this sounds like it's for me. The photos look like what I'm looking for. Oh, and this person hired them for their wedding and they're saying all the things that I'm looking for my wedding day. They're immediately going to be more likely to convert because they can already see that someone else has said that you can do what you're saying you're going to do. So I think having the testimonials weaved in throughout the website rather than a standalone page is much better.
It's so true. And you know what's really interesting about that answer is, because I totally agree with you, is that I think sometimes people think, why do I need someone to do my website? I've got the technical skill to work the platform. But actually what we're saying is it's not necessarily about having the technical skill. It's actually the clever bit is understanding the flow, understanding how to weave that together, understanding how to make it look like one beautiful piece of work rather than a bit here and a bit there and then a bit stuck on the bottom there. So you may be listening to this and you may have the skill to add buttons to a website. You may know how to use a website builder, but actually that doesn't mean you don't necessarily need someone to help you work out that journey, work out that flow, and work out how to fit it all together. And yeah, it's a really interesting answer, because I totally agree with you. And I can often tell when I go to someone's website if they've done it themselves because of exactly that. It just feels a bit, why are you sending me there now? Like, why is that there? And often it's because they've gone through a training where someone said to them, you should add testimonials, you should add a link to your Google reviews, you should add a button. And so then they've just gone, I should do that, go on there and plonk it on. And it doesn't necessarily match the overall flow of it. Okay, how do we know then whether or not a website is performing? Are there any tools out there? What should we be looking at? If we've got a website, what should we be looking at to know whether or not our website's working for us or not?
Okay, so a big part of this, what I say, would be SEO, because if we know that everything that we've got on that website is being found on Google, so when couples type in what they're looking for, so say wedding planner in London, and you come up for that, then I think that's a good indicator that what they're looking for and what Google knows that you do, it's kind of putting the two together where Google knows, okay, yep, so Sarah's a wedding planner in London and this is what Becky is looking for. So, it puts the two together. And also looking at your stats, you can look on Google Analytics and you can see whether people come on the page and then just bounce off. So it's called your bounce rate. So the lower that is, the better. So if you've got a really high bounce rate, chances are that you're being found for something that people are looking for, but what they're looking for, you're not right for. So if your bounce rate was like 90%, then you know that they've landed on it and they've seen, okay, no, this isn't right for us, and they've gone off. That's a good opportunity for you to look at the keywords that you're ranking for and make sure that your website reflects that. So if, somebody was searching wedding florist for maybe wildflower wedding florist in the Cotswolds, and your website came up because you say that, but then your photos are all these, really tight bouquets and it's not really wildflowers, then they're going to just click off because they're going to look at the photo and see, no, this isn't wildflowers. I'm just going to go. So if your bounce rate is really high, then that's a good key indicator to look at. Okay, is what my keywords say reflected in my images and my messaging and my copy? You can also see where they trail off, so where they leave when they're scrolling through your website. So if they kind of get halfway and then they go, again, that's a good chance for you to look at it. If they get to the bottom and then they don't click contact, that's a good indicator for you to put, a call to action at the bottom. So you can see, okay, yeah, they got to the bottom and then they left. That would show to me that they don't know what to do next. So add in those call to actions so they know what to do next. And you can track that all in Google Analytics.
I think people get a bit scared of Google Analytics, but they absolutely should understand it a little bit. And if you're listening to this and you think, I don't even have Google Analytics installed, because that is a lot of people that I speak to, please go and get it installed, because it will give you answers. Even if you don't understand it straight away, start getting the data, because someone else may be able to help you interpret that data. You may be able to watch a YouTube video that will teach you how to find those things. If you are looking at getting a new website or getting a website updated, you can show that data to the web designer so they can see it themselves and reflect on it. So yeah, at least get it installed so you've got the data coming in. And if you've got the data coming in and you haven't looked at it for a while, I encourage you to go in and take a look, because it won't give you all the answers, but it will give you some answers and some patterns. And I think that's what we need to look at, is patterns, because there may be the odd person that bounces off or comes to the halfway through the page, but it's when that's happening consistently that we know that perhaps there's a problem. I think the other thing people get a bit muddled up with, especially when they're starting out or even changing to a new website, is how to decide where to have their website. So some people are on Wix, some people on Squarespace, some people are on WordPress. Now, your platform of choice is Showit. Why did you decide to use that one? Why have you made that your platform of choice? And is that the only platform you work with?
The only platform I work with at the minute is Showit. I have thought about offering others, but I just find Showit so easy to use. So I always compare it to Canva, where you kind of have this blank canvas. So each section of the website is called a canvas, and you can literally drag and drop anything wherever you want. So you're not restricted by blocks, and you can only have a text box and a button in this block. And then when that moves over to mobile, it's only going to go in this order. It's not like that with Showit. So Showit, you can design the desktop completely separate to the mobile. So if you want, say you have a header, like a headline, an image and some text, and that's on desktop, but then on mobile, you think, oh, that doesn't really work right. You could have, say, the header and the paragraph, and then you could have the image below it. So you can design them entirely separate, which I think is really good for mobile optimization, because most people are going to be looking on their mobile phones in these days. I think it's about 80% or something look on their mobile phone when they're researching. So definitely need to have the mobile optimized. I also, not to go against Wix, but a lot of people I speak to have a Wix website, and they're just like, oh, it's so difficult to update. You've got these blocks and these boxes and you can only move this like this. And then they just hate updating their website, because they're like, oh, it's just such a faff and they have to go in and do this. and then it puts them off and they don't want to update it. So then they end up with this website that they're cringed out by because they've not wanted to use their brain space up in the middle of wedding season to go and update a picture because it's too difficult. So definitely choose a website platform that is going to be easy for you to update in the future. And one of the main reasons why I chose it is because it was built for wedding photographers. So it's a much smaller platform than, say, Wix or Squarespace. But the original, the reason why they initially built the platform was for wedding photographers. So it's such a visual platform, which I think is really important for the wedding industry. So now it can be, you could have a service-based business website on there. I have my website on there, and all different wedding suppliers. But it's so, there's so much creative freedom with it that it can work for a lot of different businesses as well. But yeah, the thing that attracted me the most was the drag and drop and the fact that it was built for photographers in the first place.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And I think as well, for people listening, if you are going to outsource your website or get someone else to build it, still make sure it's on a platform that is easy for you to use. Because I come across this a lot where I will work with someone and I'll do a review and I'll say, look, let's change this on your website. Let's change that on that website. And they come back and say, I don't know how to, or I don't have a relationship with my web developer, but how they've coded it is so complicated and it's really difficult. So whether or not you build it yourself or get someone else to build it, you should still build it on a platform that you can then update in the future so that you're not tied to constantly having to pay someone else to do a really complicated update. So it sounds like Showit is fairly user-friendly for people to be able to, if they're used to something like Canva, be able to go and change things fairly easily themselves.
Yeah, definitely. I totally agree, because like you say, if you lose contact with that web designer, or, they don't run the business anymore, or it's all coding, there's no coding on Showit. You can add coding if you want to. So if you wanted specific things on there, you can code it. But generally speaking, you don't need to do any coding to build a website on there. So it's really easy to use. And it just stops you having to pay somebody every time you want something changing, or, if you've said to somebody, why don't we do it like this? And then you reiterate that to the web designer and they're like, oh, I can't do that. Or they'll do it a different way than, what you're looking for. And it's just always back and forth. Whereas on Showit, if you wanted to swap a photo, you just double click, upload the new image and swap it in. It's that simple.
Yeah, you definitely need something that you can update over time. Now, you mentioned earlier as well about how one of the things you do is have templates. And I think that's a really interesting thing, because a lot of people think I have to just start from scratch, and they wouldn't even know that a website template was a thing, let alone, ready to go and purchase it. So what do you think are the pros and maybe some of the cons of someone going, yeah, I'm going to use a template website?
Yes. So the way I've built my templates is that it's basically a website already done for you. You just swap out your copy, your branding, your fonts, and the images. So it's a really easy way to get a website that's already built with strategy in mind. So everything that I've mentioned on the call, it's got the headers, it's got the call to actions, it's got a lot of images on there so you can showcase, your signature style. But I think it's really good to not have to think about, what am I going to do on here and what's going to go here? And a lot of people, like you said, they don't know what should go on a website. So I know as a website designer, the flow of the homepage, but a lot of people starting from scratch, they might put their logo and then an image and then a bit about them, and then just kind of leave it to people to guess where to go next. Whereas with the templates, everything's already built on there. So, you've got your headers, you've got space for, the experience, individual service pages. So that's good for SEO because you've got all the different keywords that you can rank for if you've got different packages. You've got about pages, galleries, so you can really showcase all of your photos, and then the contact page as well. So everything is already built on there, and it's just a case of swapping out what you need to swap. A con maybe of having a template could be if it's not, if you choose one that's not maybe built with your wedding business in mind. So, you might have one, say a celebrant might have maybe one or two packages, and then you buy a template that's got, all of these service pages and all of these spaces for all these services that you might have, but you only have one or two. And the other way around as well, if you've got a lot of different services, but it only comes with one or two pages and it doesn't really give you enough space to put in all of the information that you want to put in. So I think you definitely need to be careful with what template you choose. and make sure that you're, rather than just looking at the design, because a lot of the things in the design can be changed, but look at the actual structure and the overall layout of what's included to make sure that it's going to fit for your business.
And if someone goes with a template option, can they then add to that template? Can they add their own pages, or are they restricted by the number of pages on the template?
Yeah, you can add loads of pages. I know some people that have got about 250 pages on their Showit website. So yeah, and also you can duplicate the pages and you can grab sections from other pages. So if you've got, maybe if you wanted to set up a new page for a new package, you can just duplicate your other package, change the title and change what's on it. And then you've got a whole new page without having to build everything from scratch again.
How do we make sure that we don't all look the same? So if basically I go and buy a template and then you buy the same template, how do we make sure that everyone's website isn't identical? Or do you think by the time we've changed the design and the photo and the colors, they look like totally different sites anyway?
Yeah, so I see this a lot, that people think, oh, but if I buy a template and I'm, a makeup artist in London, and then this lady also buys the template and she's also a makeup artist in London, it's going to look the same. But I do think that by the time you've changed your fonts, your colours, and your images are going to play a huge part in this as well. So if you're, say, you're a photographer that's got loads of black and white style images compared to a really fun, bright coloured florist, then it's going to look different already. But you can change the style of it as well if you need to. So as an example, my first template customization that I did was for a wedding planner in Pennsylvania. So her colours was like a really nice gold tan colour. And then I just recently did a TP wedding venue for the Orchard at Munsley. And her colours are a lovely dark green, a lighter green, and a sort of tan colour like the colour of the teepees. So if you were to look at those websites, I don't think you would be able to tell that they came from the same template, because on the TP venue, we put a lovely big drone shot video of the venue, whereas on Sarah's, she had some smaller images and then a larger image. So you can customize it based on what you need. So I know that Jane really wanted the video. So that's okay, we can put the video on there. So you've got, the big video, everybody can see the whole space of the venue first. Whereas Sarah would want to show kind of like the experience and, a happy couple on there that she's worked with.
And it's interesting, isn't it? Because actually, when we're all using Canva, we're probably all using the same templates as each other on those things all the time without really noticing. Because again, by the time we've changed a bit of font or moved something slightly or changed the graphic out, it looks like a totally different thing. So I guess we need to see it in the same light as Canva. It's essentially Canva for websites. It's that same thing. So you're starting with a starting point rather than just a blank white square. I mean, before Canva, I don't think I ever did any kind of graphic design because I have no skill. However, Canva's helped me to be able to create stuff. And I guess it's the same here. If you're using a template, it stops you looking at a blank white screen and thinking, where do I start? It gives you all of those pieces. And then it's up to you to make those pieces work and look like your business. So it makes perfect sense to me. I think one of the other mistakes people make in just generally in websites is that they are so focused on the design aspect that some of the other important elements, for example, the SEO is a big one, get neglected. And I think we need to start changing the messaging around this, because when someone gets a new website, I always say to them, make sure, especially if you've already got a website and then you're getting a new one, make sure you've got an SEO specialist involved. Make sure someone understands the SEO. Make sure you're not just having a pretty website that no one can find. So from your perspective, how does that SEO aspect, which is the more techie aspect, actually fit with this beautiful design?
Yeah, that's a great question, because I see that a lot where, people aren't filling in the titles, or they might have deleted everything and started from scratch, but then their stats go down, and it's because they've not set up any redirects for the new website. So it's definitely something that you need to look at and consider. Even just changing your website, or if you're getting a brand new website, it's really important. So with the SEO, I think people think it's very, very, very complicated. And yes, it is complicated. But I think it's important that you know what people are looking for, and then you can put that on your website. So if you know somebody's looking for wildflower florist in the Cotswolds, but your website's just got loads of images and it's not got any text on there, Google isn't necessarily going to know what you do. So having that copy on there is really important. And when I redo someone's website, I will always do URL redirects, because that basically tells Google, this is what the old page was, and now this is what the new one is. So it knows that page has not just disappeared forever. So you might change the slug, which is the bit after your domain, after the slash. So I see a lot of the time also people might duplicate a page like we spoke about earlier, but then they just keep it. So it might just say inspiration -2 or copy of, and then this. But that is sort of prime real estate really in that URL to use more keywords. So definitely making sure that if you do duplicate a page, change the title, change the meta description, and change the slug. So you've got all of those keywords on there. But if you don't want to do that, then I have collaborated with Jenny, and we actually launched at WedPros Live our package together. So you've got the design from my side and then the SEO and the copy from Jenny's side, because we know that some people just don't want to do it at all. They don't want to be, researching the keywords and designing the website at the same time. So if it's something that you're thinking, okay, I really need to get this sorted, you can kind of get the best of both worlds with me and Jenny together.
I think it's a brilliant collaboration. When you reached out to me before WedPros Live and said, I've got a top secret thing, we're going to be collaborating together, can we go next to each other? And I thought, yes, thank goodness that you're doing that, because as I said, I see so many people where it's disjointed, or they go to one and then they don't know how to get the help, or the people don't talk to each other. So the fact that someone can come to you, and yes, of course you're going to invest more, but it's all going to be in one place, working beautifully together with the copy and the SEO and the design. I think it makes perfect sense. And I think whoever people go to for their website design, you must not neglect this SEO side, because you can have a brilliant website, but if no one's finding it on Google, if no one's finding you in the search, what's the point? I mean, we might as well just have it hidden in our houses. So you've got to make sure these things work together. And I love that you've made that collaboration, and that people can now work with both you and Jenny Hawkins together. I think it's a fabulous thing, and it's a definite, me, collaboration is what I'm all about. And I think it makes everything stronger. Okay, so if people are listening to this, they're thinking, yikes, I need to make some changes to my website. We've given them so many tips, but if they're feeling overwhelmed, what are the different ways someone can work with you if they want some help?
Amazing. So I offer the Showit templates. So I currently have 4 templates. They've all been designed differently for different businesses in mind, but they can all be tweaked to suit different wedding businesses. I can also offer template customization. So if you choose a template, but you're like, oh God, I really don't want to spend all this time editing it myself, I've got a busy wedding season coming up, then I can customize it for you. So that's kind of a bridge between doing it yourself and a fully custom website. And I can also do a custom website as well. So if you're thinking, oh, I like the templates, but they're not quite what I had in mind, then that's fine. We can build something from scratch, completely customized to your business as well.
Amazing. And if people have got questions, want to chat, where's the best place for them to come and connect and find you?
Yeah, so they can come to my website, which is kalunaandtime.co.uk, or come and see me on Instagram, which is at kalunaandtime.
Fantastic. And I would encourage you, if you are thinking about getting a redesign, if you need some help, Amber's lovely. Just reach out to her and chat, and I'm sure she'll be able to help and advise you in what you need to do next. Amber, I always end my podcast with the same question, so I'm going to end this one in that way now. And it's asking you this question. What's one thing you personally wish you'd known sooner in your own business?
Oh, that's a tricky one, because I feel like it's evolved a lot. But I would say just having the confidence to go solo and do it. It was something that I had to think about quite a lot. But in the end, I knew that it was something that I wanted to do, and something that was going to be right for me and my life and my business. So yeah, I think having confidence in your own business and in yourself, that you can do what you want to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And confidence is often the biggest thing holding people back. So yeah, I hear you on that, and I hope that you've got no regrets. I think you're on a great trajectory. I think you're going to do great things in this industry, and I know you're going to help a lot of people. Amber, it's been so fun chatting to you. Thank you once again for getting involved in WedPros Live. Thank you for being here and being so helpful on the podcast today. And I'm sure we'll do more together in the future. And I'll see you soon.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. I've had so much fun.
Absolute pleasure. What a great conversation with Amber. I hope that's given you some food for thought with your website. Just take some time. If you haven't looked at your website for a while, go and look at it. If you're feeling that feeling of cringe and like you don't want anyone to see your website, maybe take that as a sign it's time to update or improve it. Maybe it's not a big overhaul that you need. Maybe it's just a glow up. Maybe it's just some tweaks. But wherever you're at with it, take some time to go and look at your website. And if you need some help, you know where Amber is. I'll see you all next time.